Hello, I am Alon Burstein, a visiting assistant professor in the Department of Political Science and Israel Institute fellow at the University of California, Irvine, here bringing you the summary of the last 24 hours of the Israel-Hamas war. So it's currently the eve of November 10, 2023 in the United States, the morning of November 11, 2023 in the Middle East. Starting with the hostage situation, the kidnapped Israelis that are held in the Gaza Strip. The El Arabiya news network today, that comes out of Saudi Arabia, reported that a deal has been struck in which Palestinian women and children that are being held in Israeli jails are going to be released in exchange for 100 women and children that are hostages that are held in the Gaza Strip. This report appears to have been substantially premature. The deal has not been reported anywhere else. No one else mentioned that a deal was struck. The Washington Post today reported that a somewhat similar deal is brewing after the tri-party meeting that occurred in Qatar between the head of the Mossad, the head of the CIA, and the Prime Minister of Qatar. This report suggested that 100 hostages with foreign citizenship, and also women and children that are held hostage, would be released in exchange for the release of all Palestinian women and children that are held in Israeli jails. Later on, it was reported by the CNN that a top U.S. source is suggesting that a large-scale deal is brewing to release a substantial amount of hostages, starting with women and children, in exchange for a ceasefire. And this report additionally suggested that the release of 10 to 20 hostages may occur in exchange for a 3-day pause in the fighting in the coming days. All these reports seem to be somewhat premature. They all say that there's still a lot of hurdles to pass until any such hostage exchange may happen. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson today, stated in response to all these reports that there is continuous ongoing negotiations, but that any deal is far from being struck. Moving on to the ongoing fighting going on in the Gaza Strip. There were continuous rockets and missiles today fired from the Gaza Strip towards the south of Israel, and after 3 days when this didn't happen, there were a substantial amount of missiles that were fired towards the center of the country. So rockets targeted today the entire area surrounding the Gaza Strip and the town of Sderot. There were also direct hits in the town of Rishon LeZion and a substantial barrage towards Gush Dan. A missile landed in Tel Aviv. There were also rockets sent towards Ramat Gan, Petah Tikva, and another large amount of towns. The IDF today reported that it has taken over several different Hamas outposts in Gaza City, specifically noting the Sfina outpost and the Badr outpost in the Al-Shati refugee camp. Both of these are substantial Hamas outposts. They have been reported over the years as being some of their strongest headquarters. According to the IDF, some of these battles took many, many hours, and eventually they managed to take them over. They uncovered weapons factories, entrances to underground networks, and killed over 150 Hamas activists in these different outposts. In addition, there was reported ongoing fighting in the Blue Beach Hotel in the Gaza Strip, where Hamas operatives had taken up refuge and were launching anti-tank missiles towards the IDF. The IDF eventually managed to take over the hotel, and 30 Hamas operatives were killed. In addition, an IDF armored division today took over a different Hamas outpost and the headquarters of Muhammad Sinwar, who's the brother of Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. In this outpost, they located large amounts of technological weaponry and different drones and equipments. In addition, it was reported today there was substantial fighting in and around the Shifa hospital. So the Shifa hospital is the main hospital in Gaza City. It has been confirmed by the IDF many times that the Hamas headquarters are in tunnels underneath the Shifa hospital. Reports are that the IDF has surrounded the Shifa hospital and the different surrounding compounds, including the Rantisi hospital and Nasser hospital, and that there was a lot of fighting in the area. Shifa hospital administrator Muhammad Abu Salima today stated that IDF tanks are 100 meters away from the hospital, and that the hospital is still housing some 15,000 internally displaced people that have nowhere to go. In addition, Al Jazeera today reported in the middle of the day that the IDF has begun attacking the hospital and bombed the front gate of the hospital. Later on, the IDF rejected this and cited that it was actually a failed rocket launched by Hamas that landed near the entrance to the hospital. One Palestinian is reported to have been killed in this bombing. In addition, the Palestinian Red Crescent today reported there are substantial battles going on around the Al-Quds hospital. So these are all the hospitals in a very, very small area in the center of Gaza City. Regarding the IDF activity throughout the Gaza Strip, there were several important assassinations the IDF carried out today. One of them was against Mohammed Kakhlot, who is the head of the sniping unit in northern Gaza. The other one was against several Nukhba fighters. Nukhba is the Hamas commando units that primarily carried out the attack on October 7th. And there are also some specific targeted assassinations. One of them was Ahmed Musa, who was a platoon Nukhba commander who carried out or was in charge of the raid on Zikim base and the kibbutz of Zikim, and in addition against Omar al-Hindi, who is a division Nukhba commander. In addition, the Qatari foreign minister today stated that Israel is preparing an assault on Shifa hospital and called on the world to intervene. Regarding casualties, the IDF did not report any specific soldiers that were killed in the last 24 hours, although I remind everyone there were several reports that the IDF has some critically injured soldiers, and the IDF does not release any statement that an IDF soldier has been killed until they manage to report their family, so that number may change. The Palestinian Health Ministry is reporting, in the Gaza Strip, is reporting 11,078 Palestinians killed, although I also will note that moments before recording this, that number increased to 11,300, so I can't confirm that at this time, but that number is likely to increase. And 27,500 people have been injured. There are also reported 2,700 people that are missing under the rubble within the Gaza Strip. Many of these are likely dead. Moving on to the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip. According to the IDF spokesperson, over 100,000 Gazan civilians evacuated the south of Gaza in the last 24 hours alone. So previously it has been reported that over 1 million Gazans had moved south after being called by the IDF, and using these corridors the IDF has opened up to evacuate from the fighting area in the north. The IDF is reporting that an additional 100,000 Gazans had fled to the south of the Gaza Strip. There was a movie released today showing internally displaced Palestinians trying to leave a hospital compound while they're waving white flags to not be fired upon. However, after there was heard in the movie substantial bombing in the area, they all fled back to the hospital. Some reports say this was the Rantisi hospital. I cannot confirm that at this time. UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Work Agency, is reporting that over 100 of its people have been killed in the Gaza Strip since the war began. Regarding Rafah crossing, 5 ambulances with injured people and their relatives managed to cross over to Egypt today. However, there was also a report in the Shahab news agency, that is a news agency in the Gaza Strip, saying that no residents with foreign passports were able to leave through the Rafah crossing today. In general, most of the reports suggested that the Rafah crossing was largely closed today. There are also reports that the electricity in Shifa hospital failed for 15 minutes before returning. Some allegations stated that the IDF was doing this as a warning to Shifa hospital in order to get more people to evacuate. This is unconfirmed at this time. In addition, there is no report yet of how many trucks of humanitarian aid managed to enter the Rafah crossing at this time. Some reports stated that between 30 and 50 managed to enter, but again, there appears to be a lot of confusion with what's going on in Rafah at the moment, so I can't confirm what the exact number is. Moving on to the West Bank, a total of 41 Palestinians were arrested today throughout the West Bank. There were specific confrontations that occurred in the town of Hebron. Specifically in Hebron, the IDF destroyed 2 homes of Palestinian attackers that were involved in an attack back in August that killed an Israeli. And there were other low-level confrontations throughout the West Bank. There are no confirmed deaths at this time. Moving on to the north of Israel, southern parts of Lebanon, and Syria. 5 IDF soldiers today were badly injured in 2 different incidences coming from Hezbollah. An anti-tank missile was fired at an IDF outpost, and a drone exploded in a different outpost. The Hezbollah claimed responsibility for both of these attacks. In addition, there were 3 attack drones that were launched from Lebanon into Israel. 1 was successfully intercepted. The other detonated in a hiking trail in the north of Israel. There were also rockets and mortar fires launched toward the Shtulah and Western Galilee area, Ramon Naftali, Kfar Blum, and several other areas. The IDF carried out a substantial retaliation against a variety of Hezbollah targets, specifically citing that it attacked intelligence targets of Hezbollah. This could mean that they attacked specific lookout posts or technological sites or all kinds of different facilities that Hezbollah has throughout Lebanon. In addition, the IDF spokesperson today issued a warning to the Assad regime in Syria following the drone attack that was sent from Syria yesterday that made its way all the way to Eilat. So yesterday there was a drone that crashed into a school in Eilat, causing some substantial damage. Eilat is the most southern city in Israel. It was later reported that the IDF attacked an outpost of a group in Syria that likely launched this drone. The IDF spokesperson today specifically issued a warning against the Assad regime, saying that they will retaliate against Syria if attacks come out of Syria. Hezbollah reported today that 7 of its activists were killed in Israel's retaliation in Syria, which pretty much confirms, even though no one has explicitly stated this, that it was Hezbollah in Syria that launched this drone yesterday, making its way all the way to Eilat. There are a lot of speculations about why and how the drone managed to make its way all the way across the country down south. Some say that it went through Jordan. Others say that it had all kinds of subterfuge along with it. Unclear at this point. With those 7 Hezbollah activists, a total of 70 Hezbollah activists have been killed since the war began. Only one report regarding the regional developments today. Iran's foreign minister stated that war escalating and expanding to the entire region is unavoidable. Iran has been making such threats almost every day in different ways. Iran is constantly threatening to activate its militias, including Hezbollah, including militias in Iraq, including the Houthi Yemens. It's unclear at this point if Iran is referring to anything specific. Foreign minister said that the war's escalating is inevitable. Moving on to some of the political and general trends. In a BBC interview today, French President Macron stated, and I quote, "De facto today, citizens in Gaza are being bombed. These babies, these women, these elderly are bombed and killed. It has no reason or justification." Macron also called for a ceasefire and condemned Hamas's attack on October 7th and its use of civilians as human shield. As you can imagine, responding to this, Israel was in an uproar. Netanyahu specifically said that all the civilians that have been killed, even in Gaza, are the fault of Hamas. Hamas is using civilians as human shields, and that the entire war is Hamas's fault. In addition, in response to the reported pauses in the war that Israel is going to take, these 4-hour pauses every day, Secretary of the United States Anthony Blinken today stated, and I'm quoting again, "Too many Palestinians have been killed so far. We can do more to protect them." So again, this is sort of confirming the increasing impatience in the United States. President Biden also stated that he was disappointed in how long it took Netanyahu to agree to these pauses. And this also reflects that in the United States there is growing disconcern regarding how Israel is actually working to protect the lives of innocent Gazans and how long the United States can protect Israel diplomatically. The Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, met today with Saudi Crown Prince bin Salman and discussed the regional developments. This meeting comes leading up to an emergency Arab summit meeting that is going to occur in Riyadh tomorrow. In this meeting, according to a report in the Qatari newspaper Al Arabi Al Jadid, Egypt is coordinating its position with the Palestinian Authority. It was also specifically reported that Jibril Ajoub, who is a top member of the Palestinian Authority, arrived in Egypt today in order to meet with the Egyptian head of intelligence in order to coordinate what Egypt is going to represent at this summit. There are also reports that Egypt specifically invited Rajoub to this meeting, or more accurately, that Egypt asked Mahmoud Abbas, the chairman of the Palestinian Authority, to send a delegate in order to help Egypt represent the Palestinian Authority's opinions in this meeting. In preliminary meetings leading up to this summit, so it was a meeting of foreign ministers of the different Arab countries that are going to participate, there were lots of different proposals of how the Arab summit is going to respond to the ongoing escalations. These included proposals that Arab countries should expel U.S. bases from Arab countries, that different Arab countries that do maintain ties with Israel should sever their ties with Israel, close airspace to Israel, etc. All of these were rejected due to internal disagreements. In addition, it was reported that President Assad of Syria arrived today in Riyadh in preparation of this summit. It was also reported that after this summit of Arab countries, on Saturday, there is going to be a summit of Islamic countries occurring in Riyadh on Sunday, also to discuss the ongoing escalations, and specifically that the president of Iran, Raisi, is going to appear in this summit as well. Responding to ongoing reports that there are different photographers of international news agencies that joined Hamas attackers on October 7th and took pictures of the kidnapped Israelis as they were being brought back, a member of Knesset today, Dani Danon of the Likud, stated, and I quote, "Shabak," it's the equivalent of the Israeli FBI, "Shabak will annihilate all those who participated in the October 7th massacre. He said, quote-unquote, journalists who were seen on site will now be added to that list." So that is a very harsh suggestion that possibly these journalists are going to also be the target of Shabak assassinations. It is very unlikely this is going to be the case. However, that was stated today. Moving on to some of the speculation regarding the future of the Gaza Strip. In a meeting today with local council leaders from the areas surrounding Gaza, Prime Minister Netanyahu stated, and I'm quoting, "There will be complete Israeli security control over the Gaza Strip in the future. This will include complete demilitarization of the Gaza Strip to ensure there is no more threat to Israeli civilians." This is the first time Netanyahu has talked about demilitarization and also referencing the entire Gaza Strip. Right now, Israel's only focusing its war in the north of the Gaza Strip, but Netanyahu specifically talked about demilitarization of the entire Gaza Strip. He also continued to add, "The IDF will maintain its control in the Gaza Strip. We will not give it to outside forces." Relating to this, Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas again today stated that the Palestinian Authority is willing to assume responsibility for the Gaza Strip only if this comes as part of a regional deal that will include the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And backing this up even further, relating to the summit in Riyadh, the Egyptian sources told Al Arabi Al Jadid today that there is general agreement among the different Arab countries regarding what will be the final declaration of the summit in Riyadh. And among these, they are going to reject any separation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. They're going to reject any disposition of Palestinians from their land. And they're going to call for a ceasefire before any debate on the future of Gaza. Again, regarding all the debates, how will the war end and who will govern Gaza, the Arab Summit is intending to call on a ceasefire before anything is actually debated. That is my report for the last 24 hours. I'll be back tomorrow.